Thank you, honorable guests, to Dr. Patrick Awia, the president of Ashesi University, members of the board, the faculty and staff, the Ashesi community, and to the parents, families, friends, and graduates for inviting me here today. It is a tremendous honor to be the commencement speaker for the Ashesi class of 2020. I have to start with one caveat. My heart goes out to each and everyone who's been affected by the pandemic, and I pray that all of you and your loved ones remain safe. I'm not blind to the facts and circumstances of COVID. As a family, we suffered directly, but I am deliberately not talking about COVID today. The fact that this event is taking place in 2021 is just minor evidence of the disruption. But I have decided that COVID has taken enough of our attention. So you're going to get a COVID-free commencement speech today. I'm inoculating this speech. I have a deep admiration for Patrick, his life's work, and his story. Patrick went to America, he was educated at Swarthmore University, worked at Microsoft, and came back bearing gifts. Ashesi being the most incredible of his many gifts and his legacy. My own father, Emmanuel Opoku, also came to the United States to get his education. My dad was not from the royal family, but he grew up in the Ashanti Palace. His father was the chief of police for the Ashanti king. In 1962, my dad earned a scholarship to study overseas. In those days, Kwame Nkrumah was the president of Ghana. President Nkrumah had come to study in the US, and he encouraged others to go overseas, get educated, and come back with what they had learned. My father was deciding between London, England, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. His best friend was going to London, his brother was going to Minnesota. He decided to follow his brother Stephen. He chose family over comfort. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Minnesota, it's a beautiful state in the Midwest. It is well known for having 10,000 lakes and very nice people. But it is cold. And I mean the kind of cold that makes your fingertips numb, your eyes water, your teeth chatter, that kind of cold weather that actually makes you angry. I know this anger very well because I remember standing at the bus stop as a 5-year-old being angry. I would stand there and ask God, why did my dad choose to leave the equator in Ghana and go to Minnesota? It's cold, he doesn't need 10,000 lakes, he doesn't even know how to swim. Why didn't he go to London? But I grew up in Mounds View, Minnesota. My name is Lisa Fudjua Opoku. My family calls me Ajua Fudjua. I was named after my grandmother. My mother, Janet Opoku's mother, Elizabeth Ajua Fudjua Jechi. Growing up, we were a close-knit family. Both of my parents modeled hard work. My dad was an accountant, my mom was a midwife. My mom used to work 16 hours a day for the first 10 years of my life. They believed in having a strong work ethic. My brother Steve, my sister Carol, and I were also taught that education was everything. Strangely, I don't even remember any direct conversation with my parents about education. I just remember this kind of constant threat in the air, like getting a bad grade in our house was a sin. I'll never forget one semester in junior high school getting 8 A's and an A-. When I showed my report card to my dad, he said, if you could get 8 A's, you could get 9 A's. I said, Dad, but the A- was in gym. He said, that was the easiest class of all, and that education was a privilege. Throughout my childhood, my parents had this view that we were visitors in America. We grew up with this same mindset. It was similar to the way you're supposed to behave when you're a kid visiting somebody else's house. Don't touch anything, make sure you say please, thank you. We were guests. We were living this life in Minnesota that felt temporary to them. Ghana was home. When I was 8 years old, I recall asking my dad, why are bandages pink? He told me, because they don't make them for you. They don't even think about you when they're making them. You are not from here. I forgot to mention something else about Minnesota. Besides the cold and the nice people, the population was also not racially diverse at all. In fact, it was almost totally white. I guess that's why the Band-Aids were pink, to match their flesh, not mine. I had visited Ghana when I was about 2 years old, but I don't remember that trip. So I was a bit confused by my parents always telling me, we are not from here. But I could also sense it through the subtle Band-Aid-like messages. As a child, no one on TV or in politics looked like me. None of them. None of my teachers were ever Black. Not one. In my school, there was me, my sister, and one other Black student named Perry. That was it. There was no Oprah Winfrey back then, no Barack Obama. But everything changed for me when I came to Ghana at 12 years old. I remember so well, we landed at Kotoka Airport, and your relatives would greet you at the airport. There was this awesome rooftop area where they could look down at the planes landing and wave at you. You could see their eyes squinting at you as you walked down the steps onto the tarmac. I was mesmerized from the moment I stepped off the plane and into that 90-degree heat. As I walked into the airport with our bags, there was a huge sign over our head that said, Akwaba, which means welcome. Being in Ghana, it was quietly affirming to look around and see people who looked like me everywhere. All of the food that we ate in Minnesota that was so strange to my friends there, kenke, kantumle, and katakwine, but in Accra, they were staples. I didn't have to explain the difference between a plantain and a banana to anyone there. I absolutely loved it. On that trip, I found out where I came from. My mom is from a village called Warasu, just outside of Kumasi, near Kumawu. My mom's history is fascinating. Her mom had her older brother, Kwaku Eseedu, and then she was infertile for 16 years. She was given a fertility doll and finally had a baby after 16 years of trying. Imagine the joy my grandmother, affectionately called Majua, had when she finally had that baby girl 16 years after the birth of her son. That baby girl was my mother, Ama Mfum. Mfum means surprise. The story of her birth was legendary, even today. My mom was then blessed with a baby brother named Kwame Adu Achampong. Unfortunately, when I arrived in Ghana, my mom's older brother, the one 16 years older, had already died. But when I got there, his children were waiting for me, Sister Boatima, Charles, Felix, Ernest, and Elizabeth. So when I came to Ghana, my Uncle Kwame was my anchor, my mom's younger brother. He always called me Liza. For some reason, the S sound never came out of his mouth. His kids were Ima, Kentinka, Kwesi, Abwaji, Enima, and Jechi. It was clear that the way my grandmother loved her kids created this incredible bond between her 3 children. It spread from those 3 children to their children, my cousins. They were all inseparable. Family is everything among the Jechis. The year of the return, for me, was in 1984. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I felt complete, not ever having been aware what was missing before then. In the US, many Black people deal with overt racism and internalized oppression. Ghana was the opposite. Here, for me, I found external validation, even exaltation. Kwame Nkrumah once said, "I am not African because I was born in Africa, but because Africa was born in me." I knew who I was from then on. I went back to America even more confident. I continued my education through undergraduate in Minnesota. When I applied to law school in 1992, I really didn't know how to choose, so I applied to all of the top 25 law schools. Soon after, an advisor told me, "You will never get into the top schools." Even though I was graduating summa cum laude with the highest honors, well, it was a good thing I had already applied because she didn't know who I was. I remember calling my roommate, Kylie, to check the mail. Yes, this was before your news came via email. In those days, if you were accepted, It was a big envelope with all the details about how to register. And if you were rejected, it was a small envelope. When I called Kylie, she said, "You got a big envelope from Harvard." So she opened it and told me I had been accepted. I was with my parents at the time. My mom looked at me and said, "Even when I was in my village, I knew about Harvard. Who knew that one day I would have a baby and that baby would go to Harvard?" Ironically, Harvard Law School was my Black experience in America. There were about 70 Black students in my class. It was the first time in my life I had more than one Black school friend, and it was an amazing community. I learned as much inside the classroom as I did outside. So many of my dearest friends are still those HLS classmates. I focused on corporate tax and went to practice tax law in Washington, D.C. When I entered into corporate America, I was back in the extreme minority again. I lived in Washington, D.C., which is known as Chocolate City because there are so many Black people there. But at work, there were very few, other than two incredible Black female mentors, Rhonda and Claire. In a way, I was back in Minnesota again. There are no ancestors for Black professionals in corporate America. We do have a few elders like Bayo Ogunlesi, Joseph Boateng, and Bernie Mensah, to whom we give the utmost respect. But the lack of ancestors sometimes creates the same feeling I had when I was back in Minnesota. We often feel like visitors when we should feel at home. I am immune to that feeling. I grew up being othered. My immunity, my Band-Aid, let me tell you, is not fleshy pink, it's Black. It's pride in my color and my culture and knowing how to heal when I am hurt in a way that's right for me. If I am in a place that is not accepting me, I will change the place. I will not change the Black woman that I am. The idea of going overseas is always appealing, but the streets are most definitely not paved with gold. I hope you all recognize that there is so much gold in Africa. 6 years into my career at Goldman Sachs, I was disappointed about being passed over for a promotion. I wanted to leave Goldman and move to Ghana. Thanks to my friend Edith, President Kufuor is a dear friend and mentor of mine. So I discussed my plans to return to Ghana with him. He told me not to move back to Ghana, to my surprise. He sent me right back to Goldman Sachs, and he lectured me with this Akan proverb about finishing the work. Ajuma ye sin ni akachwia. It means incomplete work has no reward. If you know President Kufuor, you know he has this incredibly brilliant mind and this booming voice, and when he talks to you, he shares so much sage advice, it's as if he's creating his own 21st century Akan proverbs. The wisdom and the tone leave you without any options but to heed his word. I listened to President Kufuor, and 2 years later, I was promoted to partner at Goldman Sachs. But his words still remain true. I still haven't finished the work. There is so much more I hope we can do together. President Kufuor had a dream for me. Through his dream, I am creating a beautiful network of people at Goldman Sachs, the ancestors of the future. Goldman Sachs now has an Africa recruiting initiative. We recruit from Ashesi. It's Patrick's dream. In fact, 2 of my Goldman Sachs colleagues are here and graduating today. Congratulations and Akwaba. Welcome to Goldman Sachs. But where would all of these students be without the faculty? We take off our hats in respect to each and every one of the professors, the lecturers, the staff here today. Thank you for your guidance, patience, and wisdom. To the graduates, you are all surrounded here today by loved ones. Whoever that special person is, the one who guided you across the street so that you would not be hit by a trotro, know that they were alive before you were born. They watched you grow. They believed in you. They invested in you. They know how special you are. Make sure you know your history. make sure you know who you are. To every single one of you, parents, relatives, mentors, sponsors, who held that child's hand, worked hard to provide more than 20 years of education, invested in so much of your time and energy for your Ashesi graduate, thank you so much for your love and support. Thank you for your investment in these students. Your work is well completed. To the Ashesi class of 2020, each and every one of you is the dream of your mother and father, your grandmother, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles. It is not about getting great grades or degrees for your parents. It's about what you do with that knowledge. It's about how you finish the work that Patrick started. In Ghanaian culture, we pour libation at celebrations to pay respect to these great ancestors. The way you thank those who invested in you is by cherishing that ancestry and building your own legacy. Build a strong foundation for the generation after you. Please remember, your identity is an asset. There's an African proverb that says, dreams are the voices of our ancestors. Listen to them, learn from them. You were at Ashesi because you wanted to be independent thinkers. Most of us spend our lives in the back seat with someone else driving. It is your responsibility to take the wheel and take control of where you're going. I have profound joy in being here today. My mom's older brother, you know, the one born 16 years before her, his son Felix is here. And Felix's son, Kwabena Aseadu Jechi, is in this Ashesi graduating class. We are so proud of you, Kobe. You are the great-grandson of Majua, the son of Felix and Joyce, the sister of Mami, the nephew of Boatima, Charles and Ernest, the aunt and uncle of Jordan and Austin, and the realization of all of our dreams come true. To each and every member of the class of 2020, thank you for the joy that you have brought to all of us, witnessing your incredible achievement today. Never forget that we're all supporting you, praying for you. Kwame Nkrumah's dream was what took my father to the US. Patrick Owia's dream is what brought you to Ashesi. It is a dream come true for me to be here with you today. I ask you, what are your dreams? Where will your dreams take all of us? You are our great-grandchildren's ancestors. We are counting on you. Make us proud. God bless you.